You were actually predicting a red wave, which didn't materialize. What do you think happened?
Yeah, back in the summer, I was kind of skeptical, and I bought into the fall momentum that appeared to be building for Republicans, and I was dead wrong. I'll definitely own that. I think what happened is voters are concerned about inflation. They are concerned about the economy, but I don't think Republican candidates gave them enough in terms of policy proposals, what they were going to do about it. I think too many Republicans are running on grievance rather than governance. And I think voters reacted to that and kind of rejected a number of Republican candidates.
How do the results so far change your predictions for what will happen to key areas of legislation?
Yeah, so I clearly got the results wrong, but I think but I get to the same outcome. So I got there the wrong way, but I still think it's gridlock at the end of the day. I mean, Elon was going through what the House numbers probably look like. That's a pretty much a flip of what we have right now in the House, a very divided Congress, but one House, but one party will control versus the other. Still close to a 50-50 Senate. So I think at the end of the day, gridlock is the name of the game. And so parties are going to have to figure out how to pass must-pass legislation, budgets, debt ceiling, stuff to keep the lights on. But I think both parties will struggle to get discretionary items across, things that don't have to be passed immediately.
Brian, just from what you've seen so far, what do you think the results say about not just the next 2 years, but what happens after 2024? Do you think yesterday's results were a repudiation of sort of the Trump MAGA movement, or do you think it still has some legs?
I think it has legs because there is a significant part of the Republican Party that belongs to this populist wing, that identifies with this populist wing. They're not going away. But I think what the results told Republican voters last night is that's not enough. When you look at what the successful candidates looked like, they were competent. They were into governance. When you look at Mike DeWine in Ohio, Ron DeSantis in Florida, Governor Kemp in Georgia, Marco Rubio, these are people that campaigned on getting things done and governing responsibly. They ran as adults, not as, for lack of a better term, not as children who were whining about past wrongs done to them. So I think it's a wake-up moment for Republican voters. If they want to get back into the majority, they want to get back to governing. Voters across the country last night sent a very strong message. It's time to refocus your energies onto the issues that voters care about and how to implement them, not running on grievances all the time.
Yeah, and between now and the presidential election, Brian, the economy could fall into a recession officially. And I'm wondering, in terms of gridlock, does it make it much more difficult to pass some sort of stimulus and therefore get the economy back on its feet? What's your view on that?
Yeah, in a tightly divided Congress like that, it's going to be really tough to get something through. Maybe some lesser items like expanded unemployment benefits, expanded food stamps, depending on what the recession looks like. But I think this puts a lot of pressure on the Fed because it is going to remove, for the most part, the tool of a fiscal response. So the Fed could be the only show in town for the next 2 years when it comes to economic policy in the U.S.
The other issue that investors are paying close attention to is regulation, and the notion was that a red wave would be much better for a lot of companies by way of easier regulation or lifted regulation. With these results, Brian, it seems like that may not be as clear to materialize for investors. What's your take?
Yeah, I want to be clear on this. I never bought into that part of the argument because I think the regulators were in place and a Republican Senate could put some brakes on new regulators taking over. But the regulators that are already in place, at the banking regulators, at EPA, at the various agencies, they're already in place. And I think the Biden administration had a playbook about how to circumvent a Republican Senate if it came to that. So I never quite bought into that. But certainly, in terms of holding oversight hearings in the Senate and bringing up various heads of agencies and berating them for different regulatory actions, that probably goes away if the Senate remains Democratic. And it gives Democrats a freer hand to replace anybody that does leave in the next 2 years.
Okay. Brian, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.